Sometimes being emotionally mature means you see the red flags clearly, but still choose to stay, hoping your patience will rewrite the story. It's that quiet realization in the back of your mind, where awareness doesn't always lead to action. You know the patterns, the inconsistencies, the ways things fall short, yet there's this pull to hold on a little longer. Emotional maturity isn't just about spotting problems, it's about understanding them so deeply that you start making excuses for why they exist. You tell yourself it's not malice, it's trauma or circumstance, or just bad timing. And in that understanding, you find a reason to endure. This is the maturity trap, where high emotional awareness tricks you into over-investing. It's not weakness, it's a strategy honed from years of navigating relationships in a world that rewards resilience. Think about how it starts. You enter a connection with eyes wide open, unlike before when you might have jumped in blind. Now you're self-aware, you've done the work, therapy sessions, books on boundaries, late-night reflections on past mistakes. You spot the signs early. The inconsistent communication, the emotional unavailability, the little imbalances that add up. But instead of walking away, your maturity kicks in like a reflex. You rationalize. Maybe they're going through something, you think. I've been there too, who am I to judge? This is why emotionally mature people stay in bad relationships longer than they should. Your insight becomes a double-edged sword. It allows you to empathize, to see the humanity in the flaws. And in North American dating culture, where apps like Tinder and Bumble make everything feel disposable, that empathy feels like a rare strength. You don't want to be another ghoster, another person who bails at the first sign of imperfection. So you stay, turning tolerance into a quiet virtue. But beneath it, there's this unspoken pain. I'm too insightful to be this stuck, so if I stay, it must mean I'm choosing wisely, right? It's the doubt that creeps in during quiet moments when you're alone after another disappointing conversation. You question if your awareness is helping or holding you back. This pattern sustains itself through hidden negotiations you make with yourself. You weigh the costs, the comfort of familiarity versus the uncertainty of starting over. In cities like Toronto or Seattle, where winters are long and social circles tight, loneliness feels more tangible. You convince yourself that patience will pay off, that your understanding can bridge the gaps. It's a survival mechanism, really, rooted in a culture that praises grit and second chances. So your emotional intelligence becomes the glue, holding things together even as they fray. But why does it feel so necessary? Because admitting it's time to go would mean confronting that your maturity didn't fix it. It challenges the belief that awareness alone is enough. In a time of dating fatigue, where swiping left feels endless, staying feels like control. You think, at least I'm trying, even as the emotional endurance starts to wear you down. This is when maturity becomes your prison, locking you in with keys you forged yourself. You see the exit, but you hesitate, hoping one more conversation, one more effort will change the narrative. It's not about lacking boundaries, it's about boundaries stretched thin by compassion. In American and Canadian context, where individualism clashes with the need for connection, this trap is everywhere. From New York offices to Vancouver coffee shops, people carry this weight. They discuss it in whispers with friends, framing it as giving grace, but inside, it's a cycle of over-tolerance. Your high-vibe approach clashes with low-boundaries reality. And that's the core. Emotional maturity often means carrying more, not less. You absorb the inconsistencies, process them, and keep going. But over time, this overload builds. It's why self-aware people struggle to leave even when they know better. The insight keeps you chained, turning "I understand" into "I can handle it." Yet in that handling, you lose pieces of yourself. This isn't a flaw, it's how the mechanism works. Formed from past hurts, sustained by hope, necessary because the alternative, abrupt endings, feels immature. So you stay, watching the story unfold, wondering if your patience is wisdom or just another way to avoid the pain of letting go. As the months stretch on, the mechanism deepens its hold. You find yourself adjusting expectations in small, almost invisible ways. What once felt like a clear mismatch now gets reframed as normal growing pains. The inconsistent effort from the other side becomes something you anticipate, even plan around. You stop bringing it up as often, not because you've stopped noticing, but because you've already processed it. You've run the mental simulations, the possible reasons, the childhood wounds, the stress from work. Your emotional awareness does the heavy lifting, turning frustration into understanding before it fully lands. This is how the pattern sustains itself, through constant internal translation. Every letdown gets filtered through your insight, softened, contextualized. In cities like Los Angeles or Chicago, where everyone is working on themselves, this feels almost obligatory. You don't want to be the one who lacks compassion, so you carry the emotional load for both of you. The unspoken pain sharpens here, the quiet resentment that your depth isn't matched. You wonder in passing moments if all this understanding is one-sided, but you push it down, because questioning it too hard would mean admitting the imbalance. And admitting the imbalance would mean facing the possibility that your maturity isn't bridging anything, it's just enabling. This enabling hides in plain sight. You become the steady presence, the one who remembers anniversaries, who checks in during tough weeks. They lean on your stability without fully stepping into it themselves. In North American relationships, where independence is prized, this dynamic slips under the radar. No one calls it dependency, it's just supporting each other through life. But you're supporting more. Your high emotional intelligence spots the push-pull early. They pull closer when they need grounding, push away when your steadiness highlights their chaos. Yet you stay because leaving would feel like abandoning someone mid-struggle, and you've learned from past relationships or family patterns that abandonment feels worse than imbalance. So the cycle continues. You absorb the fluctuations. One week they're present, affectionate, making you think change is coming. The next, they're distant, overwhelmed, and you step in with patience. This intermittent reinforcement keeps the hope alive. It's the same mechanism that makes slot machines addictive, unpredictable rewards amid consistent effort. Your maturity helps you see it, but seeing it doesn't break it. Instead, it gives you language to justify staying. I know this is the anxious avoidant dance, you tell yourself. I've read about it. I can navigate it better than most. But navigation turns into habitation. You build a life inside the pattern. Shared routines, inside jokes, plans that feel real enough to hold on to. In places like Austin or Montreal, where young professionals delay settling down, this half-in, half-out arrangement feels common. Everyone's figuring things out. So your over-tolerance blends in. Friends nod when you vent lightly, saying relationships are work. No one pushes you to examine why the work is so uneven, because many of them are in similar setups. The maturity trap thrives in this cultural moment. Dating apps have made options endless, but meaningful connection scarce. Walking away means returning to the swipe fatigue, the small talk, the risk of starting over. Staying, even in something suboptimal, feels like preserving something rare. Your awareness amplifies this. You know how hard it is to find someone who gets you even partially, so you protect what's there, flaws and all. But protection slowly becomes self-erasure. You dim your needs to keep the peace. You stop asking for consistency because you've already predicted the defensiveness. The emotional endurance fail sets in, not dramatically, but gradually. Energy that used to go into your own growth now maintains the status quo. You still function, career, friends, hobbies, but there's a background hum of depletion. This is the hidden cost of being too understanding. Your insight keeps you engaged long after others would have disengaged. It turns potential deal breakers into areas for growth. And growth takes time, you reason. Time you're willing to give because you've invested so much already. The sunk cost thinking creeps in, dressed as loyalty. In a culture that celebrates personal development, staying feels aligned with your values. You're the evolved one, the one who doesn't react impulsively. But evolution, in this case, has led to a sophisticated form of stuckness. The keys are still in your hand. You see the door. But using them would mean rewriting the story you've been telling yourself, that depth and patience can heal what's broken. And right now, that story is the only thing keeping the pain at bay. Over time, the story you've been protecting starts to reveal its true shape. It's no longer about them, or even the relationship itself. It's about the belief you've quietly built, that your emotional maturity should be enough to make this work. That if you understand deeply enough, empathize fully enough, endure patiently enough, the gaps will close on their own. This is the core reframing that the pattern demands you avoid. Because seeing it clearly means acknowledging that awareness doesn't rewrite another person's capacity. It only changes how long you're willing to wait for them to catch up. In places like Boston or Denver, where people pride themselves on being emotionally evolved, this hits hardest. You've surrounded yourself with others who speak the same language: growth, healing, non-judgment. And in that echo chamber, staying too long feels like the enlightened choice. Leaving feels reactive, unevolved, harsh. So the maturity myth persists. It tells you that real depth means holding space indefinitely, that walking away is for people who haven't done the inner work. But the truth sits there, unblinking. Your insight has kept you invested in a narrative that was never mutual. The emotional labor you've poured in hasn't created reciprocity. It's only delayed the inevitable reckoning. This is why self-aware people struggle to leave, because leaving requires dismantling the identity you've tied to this tolerance. You're not just ending a connection, you're challenging the idea that your greatest strength, your understanding, can fix what's fundamentally mismatched. The hidden cost of being too understanding reveals itself fully now. It's not just time lost, it's the slow erosion of your own boundaries, disguised as growth. You've trained yourself to see every shortcoming through the lens of potential, and potential has kept you chained far longer than ignorance ever could. This is the maturity trap at its deepest. It convinces you that staying is the sophisticated move, that only the emotionally immature cut and run. But the dangerous truth lingers. True maturity might lie in recognizing when understanding has become self-betrayal, when tolerance stops being strength and starts being avoidance. Avoidance of the grief that comes with admitting this wasn't the right story. Avoidance of the dating fatigue waiting outside the door. Avoidance of starting over in a world that feels increasingly hard to connect in. You see the irony clearly now. The more evolved you've become, the more sophisticated your reasons for staying, the harder it is to walk away from what's slowly breaking you. Not because you don't know better, but because you know too much. You know their pain, their patterns, their potential, and in knowing, you've built a prison out of compassion. The keys were always yours, but using them means rewriting everything you've told yourself about what maturity really demands. It means accepting that some connections aren't meant to be healed by one person's depth alone, that awareness isn't a guarantee of mutual growth. It's just clarity, and clarity, in the end, might point toward the door you've been staring at all along. Not with anger, not with blame, but with the quiet recognition that staying longer won't change the fundamental truth. Your patience hasn't failed. It's simply reached the edge of what one person can carry. The rest is up to them. And it always was. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe to For My Ex for more conversations that cut through the noise. Share this with someone who's been carrying more than their share. We'll keep talking about the things we sense but rarely say out loud.